everybody. We'd like to welcome you to the Lange Accordion Festival. My name is Terry Cavanaugh. I'm going to be your host this evening. We're so glad to see you, and we've got another fantastic, exciting, good-looking guest for you today. His name is Mr. Ted Lange. Ted, say hi, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Listen to this. Ted's a two-time Grammy nominee. He's been inducted into the National Polka Hall of Fame. He's the co-manager of the very fine Squeezebox band with his wife, Molly B. He co-produced the Molly B Polka Party on RFD TV, broadcasted into over 60 million households. He co-produces the Molly B Polka Party radio show on Sirius XM. He's a talented musician, a producer, a recording engineer. He writes music, and he's a band leader. Ted, everybody wants to know, is there anything you don't do?
Lots. Housework is not exactly one of my great qualities that I excel at.
You're my man.
Yeah, I'm a musician through and through. That's what's normal to me.
Well, it's pretty obvious you've had great results with that.
I've been very blessed, yes.
Well, we're going to find out what makes you tick and why this has happened. So take us back to the beginning, how this all started.
Well, like a lot of folks who play in bands, it was passed down to me from my family. My parents had a band as I was growing up here in Northwest Ohio, where I'm from, and their band was called the Buckeye Polka Band, and they would play usually within about an hour and a half to a 2-hour radius from home. Almost every weekend. During the summer months, it was summer festivals. I remember they used to sometimes set up at a hall on Friday night, play for an anniversary. Saturday night, stay set up at the same hall and play for a wedding. And then on Sunday, play at the same hall again for a public dance. And that was really back in the heyday when I was a kid, back in the early 80s, going to all these different festivals. And before I turned 5, they had me up on stage playing drums. And then they made me take piano lessons, which I hated because I hated practicing. And it wasn't. And then I was just obviously was born with a gift, to play music, and it has always come relatively easily for me. So, and the rest is just kind of a natural evolution down the road. In high school, I played sports all through school, but I also did, all the extracurriculars, show choir, jazz band, pep band, marching band. And we had some unique opportunities growing up here in Northwest Ohio. Worked with the Toledo Symphony and the New York Metropolitan Opera. Tosca was one of the operas that we were in, as well as the Magic Flute, singing with Renee Fleming. So if anybody knows opera names, Renee Fleming's one of the big ones. And so growing up in a musical area with a musical family, I actually played accordion for a halftime show with my high school marching band, believe it or not. So, I started playing in local bands here in Northwest Ohio in junior high and high school, and then I really started traveling when I joined Marv Herzog from Frankenmuth, Michigan in 1994, which just happened to be before I even finished my senior year in high school.
That's a whole career right there.
It sounds like it, right?
How did you know that you were going to do this for a living?
I didn't. For the longest time, I always had other jobs during the week that would support my performing on the weekends, and traveled, with all these different bands through the years, from Marv Herzog to Toledo Polka Motion, which is a Polish-style polka band from Toledo. I became a fill-in for just about anybody in the Polish-style circuit, whether it be Eddie Blazonczak and the Versatones, the Polka Family Band, the Dynatones, the Brass Connection. The names go on. And I just have always loved the traveling. I've loved performing. Obviously, the camaraderie with the guys is always great, and the stories that nobody will ever believe, or nobody's wives can find out about. There's some of those. And but it's always been great fun, and have enjoyed making music with people and having the opportunity to travel.
Yeah.
So I always had other jobs to supplement my playing until around 2011. Molly and I met, it's now been almost 20 years ago. We've been married for 8 years, and been performing together for, I want to say it's something like 15 years now. And in 2011, we decided that we were going to quit our regular jobs, and we were going to pursue performing full-time for a living. And within the next year, we had been signed to do a TV show on RFD TV, the Molly B Polka Party. Our schedule took off to the point where we were performing over 100 gigs a year in up to 15 or 20 states a year. And that we've just been on the go pretty much ever since.
That reminds me of what you told me when we were talking last week, because I was asking you, what would you attribute your success to? What are some of the critical elements in your makeup that, or your behavior that allowed you to be successful? And you just reminded me of that question.
Yeah, well, a lot of it is being in the right place at the right time. A lot of it has been meeting people, the right people at the right time. I would never be where I'm at without my partner in crime, without my wife, because we've been able to accomplish so much together. And it's a great relationship for us because for us, we're able to travel together. We perform together. We work together. Her strengths are my weaknesses, and her weaknesses are my strengths. So we really make a great team. So it's been a lot of that. Right place, right time, right people, and just working through whatever the problems were. Not everything has been a smooth ride, down this road, but we've always found a way to get the job done and keep moving forward with the main goal of, making people happy.
And an observation from the outside is y'all seem like you're some of the hardest working people I've ever met.
Well, Molly is. I'm not. I can tell you that unequivocally. The girl can work 24 hours a day. She's just relentless with her drive to get things done because she never wants to let anyone down. So I have a great example in her. I can't possibly live up to her expectations like that because she could work like nobody's business and accomplish so much. But we've both found a great happy place for what works for each of us, where I'm able to excel with my strengths and doing some of the things that I do and support her with the things that she does. So teamwork, in a nutshell.
What about, I think we were talking about this too. You were talking about, well, I'll just take this back to something you said a little while ago about the right place and the right time. But you have done things to increase the probability that you're in the right place at the right time.
Well, certainly. Yeah. You got to take chances. It's one of those things where, I was filling in with a local band at a festival here in Ohio, and I knew that Marv Herzog's drummer was going to be leaving at the end of the year, and he invited me up on set to play a couple songs, and Marv didn't know the difference, and he hired me on the spot. I was 17 years old, still in high school. Had I not been at that festival, would I be where I am now? Leaving the Marv Herzog band, I was actually really looking to play with a band called Polka Family from Pennsylvania. And the way things worked out, they had somebody else who stepped into the band at that time. And because of that, I ended up joining Toledo Polka Motion. I ended up singing, doing a lot of the vocals with TPM, learning to play left-hand bass, learning to bellow shake, learning to do things that I would have never done to the capacity or to the extent that I did if I would have gone the other route with Polka Family, for example. So it's really been, like we mentioned earlier, it's about taking advantage of those opportunities when they come there, making the most of it, and wherever that path leads you, just go with the path. Go, just follow it along. It'll lead you to the promised land. It will. It might not be the path you want to go on, but there's always a reason.
Write a book. The Accordion Spiritual Path, something like that.
Yeah. It's a pretty windy path, from working jobs, second and third shift, just to be able to, make sure that I could be off on Thursday night by midnight so we could hit the road to go drive to New Jersey to play on Saturday or on Friday and Saturday, Sunday, and then having a job that would allow me on Monday mornings to not have to come in till 10 or 11 because we'd leave Ludlow, Massachusetts on Sunday night at 10 o'clock, and it's a 14-hour drive home, it's been an interesting route, that's for sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a true musician right here.
I love it.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Nice going, Ted. You deserve all the success you've had and what you're going to achieve still in the future. So,
well, thank you.
Brocken. How about some music?
Sure, let's do something. I have a lot of accordion idols that I've watched through the years, and guys who really inspire me to be a better player with the way that they play, the way that they express things, the way that they make people happy, the way that they just do things. And I'm going to do a song for you right now that is written by and performed by one of my all-time favorite artists, Joey Miskelin. I wanna call you sweetheart, wanna call you dear, but words just fail me whenever you are near. I wanna take you dancing, wanna hold you tight. I want to know that feeling of delight. I wish I had the courage, like those other guys who look at you with love light in their eyes. Excuse me, did you say you wanna dance with me? Oh, honey, yes, sirree, oh, yes, sirree. Call you sweetheart, wanna call you dear, but words just fail me whenever you are near. I wanna take you dancing, wanna hold you tight. I want to know that feeling of delight. I wish I had the courage, like those other guys who look at you with love light in their eyes. Excuse me, did you say you wanna dance with me? Oh, honey, yes, sirree, oh, yes, sirree.
That's Ted Lange on that pan accordion. And here we go.
Take it home. A little bit of I Want to Call You Sweetheart. I just love that style.
I can tell. You look like a young man, like a young boy, just thrilled to be doing what you want to do.
There's nothing better in the world.
That's a beautiful thing. Hey, I noticed you were doing some really fancy stuff on the accordion. Can you teach me how to do that? Can you teach our audience how to do that?
Sure. It's, I steal little bits and pieces of every guy that I watch. And whether it be Joey Miskelin, Steve Meisner, Alex Meixner, Danny Jarabic, some of the greats out there playing the accordion, button accordion, piano accordion. And, it really just revolves around one key concept. Don't play all the notes that you can possibly fit in. Be tasteful. Try to fill the gaps where there aren't things happening. And just follow the chord structure. So on the right hand, for example, you'll hear a lot of, in the Slovenian style, generally you'll hear a musette or a violin type sound that will do some of the runs. So in that past example, I want to call you sweetheart, I want to call you dear, but words just fail me whenever you are near. I want to take you dancing, I want to hold you tight. I want to know that feeling of delight. So it's kind of filling in the spaces in between the vocal, because the one thing you always want to remember, at least from my perspective, people are there to hear a good song, a good beat. These songs have lyrics, They want to hear them. And so one of the most important things is to know your place in the band. And if it's filling, you're supposed to fill the cracks. You're not supposed to just be doing accordion solo all the time whenever anybody's singing. At least that's my input on it. So how to do it? It's very simple. It really boils down to simple scales and arpeggios. Arpeggios is if you have a chord, for example, like a C major chord. So maybe I will do a fill. Well, I'm going to do it in F because that's the key I just did this song in. So I want to call you sweetheart. I want to call you dear. So you can fill those things in between there. You can also do runs. You know, it can be anything. You just want to make sure you end on the, if possible, you want to end on the chord that they're currently playing in the band. And there is no wrong way. That's I think if I can get one point across in this whole thing, there is no wrong way really to play. I never had an accordion lesson in my life. I learned to play the left hand the way that I could only figure it out because my mom, who played accordion, would play the left hand with her middle finger and her index finger, like most people would do, where they cross over. I cannot, still to this day, cannot do that. So I learned to play with my ring finger, and my middle finger hits the chord, and my index finger then hits the other bass note. Because I just can't figure out how to cross over and do it that way. And the same way on the right hand, I don't finger anything the right way. I've just found what works for me and just pick up little bits at a time and go with it.
Is that easy, huh?
It really is. Anybody could do it.
Hey, everybody, if you think that was easy, give them a thumbs up.
I like that. Yes. Oh.
I really was hoping you would teach on that subject. You have any other things about that, or?
Yeah, you know, a couple other things with the with filling in particular is you kind of can sit back. You know, you don't have to be forefront, which I know kind of still ties into that next thing, but it's so important that everybody knows their place in the band. You know, the bass and the drums have to be together, and you're kind of like just the pretty glittery stuff that's kind of floating on the top and kind of filling in the cracks. So using the scales, using arpeggios are great ways to do it. The other thing that I would add, a lot of people have complimented me on the way that I play bass, considering I play it with the wrong fingers even, is something that I've just found to be easy to me. And I think part of the reason is when I first started learning to play left-hand bass on an accordion, my goal was to emulate what a real bass player would be doing. So I would listen to the runs that they would play, you know, stuff like that. Not just, a lot of people do that. So, you know, I try to think like a bass player, play runs that a bass player would play. The other thing that I think is important, if you want it to try to make it sound like a bass guitar or an acoustic bass, is to keep in mind that on a bass guitar and an upright acoustic bass, they only go down to a low E. That's the lowest note that they come in a standard four-string bass guitar or upright bass. So I set my bass so that way my A is actually my lowest note in the scale. So here's your C, B, A, and if I go down a half step from that A to an A flat, you hear it jumps up the octave. And so that is because I want some bottom there, but also when I get up to the top of the scale, I don't want it to be too high that it doesn't have that foundational sound that I would expect a bass to have in a band. Mm-hmm. So the two keys, think like a bass player, and secondly, try to find a setting that you can arrange your octave in such a way, whether it's programming in a module or in main stage, or if you have a MIDI system that enables you to set the low key. On this particular accordion, I actually have a MIDI system that has a little button that's installed right up here. And what it does is when I push down a bass note, if I push that button, it's going to set that last bass note I just played to that octave down. And I can go all the way down. So here's F, E, D, C, which is the start of it. So I usually set it so that way A is the lowest, because otherwise this is what it would sound like. So it kind of stays in that bassy, meaty range that is a nice supporting sound for the rest of the band.
Got you. All right. I'm taking notes. Thank you. This could be a pivotal moment in my career.
I'm willing to help however I can, you know?
So speaking of pivotal moments, does one jump out at you? Was there a pivotal moment in your life around music?
You know, as I look back, I think the thing that was most pivotal was at that time when I left the Marv Herzog Band and joined Toledo Polka Motion, because it really set me on a different path where instead of playing another band's songs, we were writing and arranging our own material. I was forced, kind of thrust into the spotlight to be the lead singer for the band, and I would have just been a backup singer with some of the other bands. So that, I think, really made a difference in my trajectory as far as which path it led me down. The second most important thing that, you know, is one of those life-changing moments, honestly, is when Molly and I teamed up and started, you know, years and years ago. We talked about doing a recording, and it never happened for a couple years, and then eventually we played our first gig together. It was funny because she didn't have a gig on New Year's Eve, and I did. And I said, well, do you want to just come out and play? She says, well, I don't know what you're going to play. And I said, well, chances are I've heard your songs, because I play not only by written music, but I also play mainly by ear. So she came out, she listed off, well, these are the songs I know. And we played that night, and it was just magic. It just worked. And so from that point on, that also then set us off in this another, you know, completely different trajectory where, you know, instead of just playing Polish music or just playing German music, we now, you know, Polish, German, Czech, Slovenian, just a whole mix of stuff that we're able to do that without Molly there as my partner would probably not work the same way.
Y'all are so awesome at that. I remember the first time you came to Wurstfest, and not that many German songs, but like within a year or two, you were so strong in that. And
we try to adapt. You know, and that's the other thing that we try to do. You know, my goal as a performer is that when we play any location, I want to do a song that at least every single person can connect with, whether it's a polka, a waltz, a two-step, a rock tune, a swing tune. If I can connect at least with one song with each person who's there, hopefully they're going to have a good time. They're going to come back. They'll support the venues, and we'll be able to come back.
Yeah, that's a good policy.
Yeah. Trying to stay in business, you know, it's not easy as a working musician, you know.
What else do you think about, like, on an upcoming job? Like, do you have a certain mission, and what do you do to prepare?
Our preparation is we generally show up to most engagements 2 hours before the doors open to the public, because we want to make sure that we are completely set up. We do full lights, sound, you know, a big setup. So we're there a couple hours before the doors open, so that way there's time to meet and greet with people when they come in, as well as on our breaks. But we try to give them as much music as what we possibly can, and as big of a variety as we can. You know, through the years, the accordion has kind of acquired this stigma with polka music, which also has a tremendous stigma. And, you know, if we can turn people on to this music, they're going to come back, and the more successful we are, it is our hope that it's the more successful other bands will also be. We understand that we're in a unique position with the TV show, the radio show, and things like that. We have a real opportunity to do a lot of good for other musicians, other artists out there, and that really is part of our goal. It's not just about us. It's about this bigger picture of this form of entertainment that has fallen to the wayside over the course of the last 25, 35, whatever you want to call it, years, and really deserves a resurgence, because there's nothing else like it on the market. So if we could be good examples and good stewards of this, hopefully we'll inspire others to also do this. You know, with the preparation, it's being on time, try to look good on stage, be professional, give as much music as you can possibly give them. Some crowds, they're a drinking rowdy crowd, so you do your Ein Prositz and you do all that kind of stuff. Other crowds just want to dance. That's fine. Every gig for us is different. So one night a show might be a dance crowd. The next night it might be a stage show. The next night it might be, Worst Fest. It might be something like that. So there's a variety of gigs, which also helps keep us on our toes. And we also try to work in new material, throughout the course of the year. So we keep expanding. Our current playlist is somewhere in the neighborhood of 800 or 900 songs. So, yeah. But it keeps it interesting and it keeps it fresh that way.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Now, 800 or 900 songs. There's just enough uncertainty to make it really exciting, but I have a fighting chance.
Exactly. Well, and that's the beauty of being in my position is that they all have to follow me because I don't have to tell a bass player where we're going to go. I can just take off on a tangent and they have no choice. I mean, I've got them held captive like that. And everybody that, has worked with us in our band, we've got, varying drummers. Dana does a majority of our gigs with us on drums, but even Chris Dozak and Jeff Hines and Alex Vinecki, these different guys, they're great. I mean, they're really, really not only good guys, good drummers. They come in professionally. They know this wide variety of material. And Molly, of course, as I mentioned, is just incredible to pick up anything at any time and just go with it and still shine. And Joe, our guitar guy, is just grooving over there, So I've just been incredibly blessed with good people that enable us to do these kinds of things.
How do you find good people?
Oh, you search and you search and you search. Actually, the truth is, they just show up at the right time. It's I don't know how else to say it. I mean, I've tried the posting on Craigslist, and musician forums in different areas, looking for a full-time drummer. We're going to play 100+ gigs a year. It's going to pay this much, so on and so forth. I mean, like a real working gig. And trying to find guys who can come in and want to do that, or even do it in a capacity that would work for us is extremely difficult. So we found that we just run into people in places, or are friends of ours that are also in the scene. That's how we've pretty much all ended up together. My first gig with our guitar player was probably 20 years ago, I'm guessing, playing a wedding outside of Toronto, Canada. So it's crazy, you're just going to meet people along the way. You just go with it.
I don't know. I think you got the magic touch over there. The keys.
I cannot thank God enough for all of the blessings he has given me with the people that I'm surrounded with, the people that support our music. I'm almost speechless and in awe of it, to be honest with you. So it's a good thing.
That's great, Ted. I'm happy for you, and it's brought a lot of joy into the world because of that. So, hey, I know we've got some accordion players in our audience, and tell me, what do you think is great about the accordion?
What I think is great about the accordion is the variety with which you can use it in. It fits in rock, it fits in country, it fits in big band, swing, it obviously fits in ethnic music. So it's just a new, for most people, for most of today's listeners, it's a new texture and a new sound that I don't think a lot of people are accustomed to. So that's one of the things that's really neat is how diverse the music styles are that you can use an accordion in. The ability also to sit and be able to play and in effect have an entire band in your hands, where you've got the bass and the counter bass and the ability to play the melody at the same time, and you can sing along. There's no other instrument that I think that gives you that kind of diversity as what the accordion does. I think those are probably the two biggest things. And now with technology, with everything that's out there for MIDI, and it's been there for years, but what you can do with it now is just incredible. I can program a steel guitar on my right hand and pianos and all these other things that just also add to the sound of the accordion. And of course, I know there's a lot of guys out there that play the Roland or the Bugari electronic accordions. And so there's just a lot of variety and a lot of great ways it can be used.
Yeah. I just had a lesson in that variety last night with Danny Jarabek, so that was something on his.
Oh,
Yeah,
that guy is something. I tell you, I'm a big fan. He and his wife are amazing. Yeah.
fun people, great people. Do this. We've got time for another great song. I'd like to treat everybody to whatever you feel inspired here.
All right. Well, there's a really pretty instrumental waltz that we learned. I heard it back years and years ago, and it just seemed familiar to me for whatever reason. I'm still not sure why. And we just decided to start playing it here within the last couple years or so. It's a number really pretty waltz. It's called the Helsa Waltz. I just think that is so pretty. I love that song, the Helsa Waltz.
Where's it from? Where did you find it?
I believe it is a Norwegian song, if I'm not mistaken. It's along the line. It's one of those songs that gets requested every time people say "Life in the Finnish Woods." Is a very common request. And Helsa Waltz also happens to be one of those. It also goes by another name called "Greet the Old Folks at Home" waltz. So it's got multiple titles. But I love it. I just think it's just a beautiful waltz.
It is a beauty. Thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Let me see. What would you have to say to our folks in the audience that either want to play or they're beginners and they want to get their skills up and maybe they're a little bit uncertain? What do they need to consider or do? Or
Well, it depends. There's a couple different routes I believe that you can go with an accordion. Number one is to get your hands on one. That's number one. And I frankly don't think it matters if it's a great one or if it's a bad one necessarily. Obviously, the better you can get, the more success you're going to have and the more ease. But get your hands on it. What I found for me when learning a new instrument, I found that by playing simple songs that I know that are easy, and then extrapolating upon those is what moved me the farthest, the fastest. And it wasn't an issue of sitting down and practicing for 3 or 4 hours a day. That never worked for me. What worked for me was when I was learning concertina, for example, or the button accordion, I would set it down beside my recliner, and at night when I'd be watching TV and the commercials would come on, I'd mute the TV, pick up the button box or the accordion, play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, or Mary Had a Little Lamb, or Three Blind Mice, or whatever the song might be. And if I sat and watched TV for a couple hours, well, just like that, I had well over a half hour to 45 minutes of practicing done. And that repetition of learning, and it just starts to become natural. So that's one way to pursue it. If you've got the ear for music and you can kind of figure out where the notes go, I think that's a great way to do it. There's a lot of other folks who have read music, and there are obviously still method books that are available out there. So if you're akin to reading music and being able to duplicate that, whether it be on piano or even on a horn, you can still translate that if you can read music here to the keyboard with relative ease. Nobody is going to be a maestro overnight on accordion, myself included. I've got a long ways to go, but just time and experience, and it'll get there in time. It really does.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, it will. I learn something new almost every time that I sit down and practice. It and I learn a lot by listening because I'm fortunate to be able to also play by ear. So for me, being able to watch other guys, watch people on YouTube, listening to old recordings of guys, seeing guys play out at events, just sitting there in awe a lot of times of really watching what are they doing and how are they making that work for them, and maybe I can steal a little nugget from that'll help me. So those would be probably my top suggestions for being able to play. Put your hands on one and just start having fun with it. That's what it's supposed to be. It's not just fun for everybody you play for. Hopefully it also brings some enjoyment to you.
That's pretty important, isn't it?
It is, yeah, because nobody wants to do something they hate every day, that's for sure.
And nobody wants to watch somebody that's playing something they hate every day.
That is for sure, yeah. People listen as much with their eyes as what they do with their ears anymore. So it's really important to, no matter what kind of day you're having or what's going on, to be a professional on stage and to be engaging and to look like you're having a good time. It's contagious. It's like a laugh. A great laugh is hard to not laugh at or at least smile after you hear it. A great performer can do the same thing to folks who are watching.
Yeah. You and Molly, Joe, and Dana, y'all have it down. So.
Well, we love what we're doing. We have a lot of fun. I wouldn't have it any other way, really.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I love that. Tell people what's coming up for you.
So obviously, our schedule is always available on mollyb.com. So if you wanted to visit our website, MOLLIE, the letter B.com, that's where you can find all of our information regarding our tour dates, any trips that we have. We do a cruise every year in January. So that's the place to get the most information. Also, Molly and I recently started this YouTube channel, youtube.com/MollyB, and you'll find a ton of videos up there. And we're doing everything from some live shows that are an hour to an hour and a half in length, to even doing individual songs. And then beyond that, I also do some recording. I have a recording studio currently based in Ohio. It's called Powerbox Recording, and I've done everything from jingles to commercials and stuff for PBS and polka band recordings, country recordings, hippie recordings. I love acoustic music and acoustic based music especially. So that also keeps us busy. Of course, you can listen to our radio shows. That's available every Sunday morning on Sirius XM channel 147 Rural Radio. It's on from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And then it's also rebroadcast in the evening on KNEIradio.com. So there's a lot of different ways that you can catch us between the live performances, the YouTube channel, the radio shows, and the live streams that we've been doing on Tuesday evenings as well.
Did you have to practice saying all that?
It's part of the norm. That's the other big thing. Promote. People aren't going to come see you if they don't know what you're doing or what you're about. So you just got to constantly be on that soapbox and getting the word out as best you can.
Well, you're doing a super job of that. Hey, do you have one more song left?
Absolutely.
Let me just say bye to everybody, and we'll let you play us out. So,
sure thing.
Out there, thank you so much, folks, for turning out. We appreciate you being here and sharing Mr. Ted Lange. And come on back. I want you to bring 100 of your best friends because we have some other great artists, too. Mr. Alex Meixner, we mentioned Alex, Danny Jarabek, we mentioned Danny, Carl Finch, we mentioned Carl, and then Mr. Michael Bridge, an up-and-coming superstar.
Superstars, right, yeah.
You just wait till you see what he can do, too. So thank you. Come on back, and what I want to say is be well, keep on squeezing. Take it away, Ted.
All right.